Welcome to this Liverpool versus West Ham United tactical analysis. If you enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing and sharing on social media. With that, let's get into the analysis. Starting with Liverpool, they typically are built up in a 2-3-2-3 or a 2-4-4. Typically with that 2-4, you have Henderson being the centre midfielder that pushes a little bit higher. He's typically making distracting third man runs from between the lines to try and create a little bit of space for Mohamed Salah. Keita starts deeper, helping Fabinho and the defenders to be able to try and progress through the 4-2-3-1 or 4-4-2 defensive shape of West Ham. So here we can see Liverpool building up in that 2-4 deep. So we've got Konate and to his left Virgil van Dijk just out of frame. On this occasion, Trent has pulled more narrow, almost into a centre midfield position, but typically he will be out here towards the touchline. Here's Henderson. Henderson was constantly picking up positions between the lines higher than Fabinho or Keita. Also note where Mane is. Mane was constantly dropping as well, looking to try and exploit the space in behind the West Ham United centre midfield. The West Ham midfield in this 4-4-2 shape would have Fornals, potentially Lanzini in this second centre forward position. They're trying to make it difficult to pass into Fabinho, and the centre midfielders are looking to try and narrow this space in here, make it difficult for the likes of Fabinho to be able to pick it up, or Keita, but that then meant behind them there's going to be a space, and that's where Mane was constantly looking to try and drop and receive passes fisted into him. Okay, so we can see progression of this press by West Ham, this 4-4-2, with here Fornals looking to try and press Fabinho, make it difficult for him. I do think this was a really tight game. You have to look at those really key chances for West Ham. They kind of threw away the Fornals chance, the Lanzini chance, as well as one or two others. So West Ham putting pressure on Liverpool like this was really important, and I think definitely disrupted the rhythm of Liverpool's play. Potentially the key disruption by West Ham was out in this left-hand space due to the positioning of Fornals, Lanzini and Vlasic in that space, just preventing Mohamed Salah from being able to really create anything from the Liverpool right-hand side. This being helped by this 4-4-2 shape and the fact that as the ball is passed into one of Liverpool's channels, yes, they might try and hit Mane, but typically they're looking to try and pass it down one of the flanks. If they pass it down their right-hand side, then they're going to have to involve a little bit more passes through the lines, or expecting Trent to switch or something like that, so that they can beat the West Ham pressure. Whereas on the left hand side, there's a little bit more of an opportunity for Robertson to be able to just run beyond the pressure, especially after a switch. Another opportunity to demonstrate the 2-4-4. Here Henderson is a little bit deeper than we mentioned, but he's going to look to try and break into this space. As mentioned, you've got the other two centre midfielders in Fabinho and Keita deeper, looking to help progression, and West Ham in their 4-4-2 pressing shape, who've narrowed and trying to prevent Liverpool from being able to play through the middle or down a channel when they've been able to cover across, are now having to rush across towards their left-hand side as Liverpool pass it back around from their left-hand side towards their right to Trent. On this occasion, Keita isn't as deep as before. So before we were seeing him in this 2-4, so this being a 4 here, but now as the play progresses into West Ham's defensive third, Keita moves from his centre midfield position with Fabinho into more of an attacking position. Here's Henderson, as mentioned, in between the lines, looking to try and create a little bit of space for Mohamed Salah out here on the right hand side. Henderson being in this space prevents Cresswell from being able to stay close or focus his attention on Salah, and it also somewhat disrupts the pressure that Vlasic, Fornals and Cresswell can put on Salah together. They have to now contend with, okay, where's Henderson making his run? Is he overlapping or underlapping Cresswell, etc. This pressure from these three eventually leads to Salah becoming quite frustrated. So in the second half, he's taking up a lot more central positions. Again, Mane drops to facilitate this, but Salah takes a lot more of these central positions so that then he can take shots earlier. Unfortunately, they were typically from distance and tended to be blocked. On this occasion, Salah just does not like what he sees in front of him with just how many numbers there are in front of him in that right hand side channel, and decides to just pass it back. Okay, so we already showed two examples of the 4-4-2 press by West Ham. Here we have a little bit more of the same. Here they're pressing off Liverpool's pass backs. Just before this pass here by Konate, Liverpool had a little bit of combination play as they tried to escape. They just regained possession from a West Ham throw-in, which is why Antonio is here rather than in a more central position. West Ham here looked to try and press Liverpool on pass backs, which they did during open play as well, although it was relatively difficult to force Liverpool into situations where they felt they were forced to pass back. And here, continuation of that pressing, 4 4-4-2 shape again. So we've got our two forwards with Fornals almost dropping into a CEM position. He's going to be looking to try and make it difficult to pass into Fabinho, which is why I say sometimes it was more 4-2-3-1. And then the rest of your four midfielders are here, maybe your far-sided wide midfielder looking to try and press towards the Liverpool fullback. Unfortunately for West Ham, due to the shape being slightly off and the good positioning by Henderson just beyond the centre midfielders in the West Ham press, Robertson was able to find Henderson and release him behind the press, and then with a good run here by Trent and also Salah out in this right hand side channel, they're able to force West Ham into retreating. And this is a good example of kind of the back and forth nature that the game had at times. One with the press, West Ham failing, but then also counter-attacks from West Ham or Liverpool kind of creating that topsy-turvy nature to the game. And here is Henderson, your centre midfielder, overlapping Salah, as well as also your fullback. This being the second half, so in the first half this aggression by both of these players wasn't really happening, but in the second half they were looking to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more flexible in their positioning to try and help Salah open up this right hand side. Okay, this next scenario I think is a good example of Liverpool using whether it's a forward or potentially Robertson to be able to drive and, you know, break up the pitch and with their dynamism be able to kind of carry the Liverpool attack. However, before we show that, I think this is a good example of what West Ham were looking to exploit. So initially in the first half it would be the likes of Antonio as well as Bowen, but typically Antonio looking to try and get in behind early when West Ham regain possession, especially in behind the fullback for Liverpool who's pushed up. So in this case we've got Robertson being higher up, looking to try and put a bit of pressure in this space. So the space in behind the Liverpool fullback is particularly attractive for Antonio. In the first half there were a lot of occasions where he was looking to try and exploit the positioning of Trent, and instead would be positioning to counter-attack in behind Trent rather than Robertson. Unfortunately for West Ham, Konate is able to get across and able to move the ball clear, and Liverpool through Henderson, who was still relatively high up the pitch, they're able to then escape with Henderson and Mane and get into an aggressive attacking position. Okay, so regards West Ham's tactics, I think the first thing to mention are their corners. They typically placed players to block the movement of Alisson. Mostly it was Antonio, but there would also sometimes be Souček or other West Ham players just looking to prevent him from being able to catch the ball with ease. So they'd have players blocking Alisson's movement, typically within a yard or two of him, and then they would have a lot of the West Ham players looking to try and attack the 6-yard box with the ball being whipped towards the near post. Unfortunately in the second half they didn't have many opportunities to have corners, although saying that they did have really good chances throughout the game. And then I think the last thing to mention is just West Ham's build up out of the back. In the first half especially, Fabianski looked to always go long from goal kicks, typically aiming for Antonio. But in the second half, as in this scenario, so in the 82nd minute, he actually plays it short here to Zuma, who was booed throughout the game. Didn't affect his performance really. With Liverpool pressing higher in the West Ham defensive third, there'd be a little bit more space in behind for Antonio and Ben Rama at this point, especially with them having brought on Noble as well. He's got obviously a really great passing range. Okay, so as mentioned, we've got Antonio looking to contest this long ball from Fabianski. There's a ton of space in here due to the centre midfielders of Liverpool being pulled higher up the pitch other than Fabinho. Keita and Henderson were just that little bit higher up the pitch. The other West Ham players, so I mentioned Benrahma and Lanzini, were looking to try and capitalise on whatever Antonio could flick onto them, and he actually did pretty well on this occasion, eventually leading to Benrahma having the ball out on the left hand side. Benrahma typically, whenever he received the ball, looked to kind of drive at Trent, didn't really look to beat him, looked to try and get into a crossing position and typically cut inside, either to cross or to try and combine with one of the other West Ham forwards, centre midfielders. In the second half, the fullbacks, so Cresswell or Johnson, did also try and support the wide players by trying to get up, and then they could provide a deeper cross. I think with that we've covered the main points. If you want to have a look at a tactical summary, please have a look in the description or the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. It goes a really long way. Consider sharing on social media and subscribing. And with that, we're out.